a package named SDTMchecks.
Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, so my name is Will Harris. I work at Genentech. I've been working here for about 9 years, and mostly in the late stage oncology setting. And so, yeah, today I just wanted to introduce the SDTMchecks package. Let's see if I can, there we go. So here's some things I've learned while working on clinical trials. So clinical trial data can be dirty in infinitely many ways, and it usually doesn't make sense to try to exhaustively clean everything. It's probably impossible. Usually I think teams just try to make sure that the data is clean enough for whatever analysis that they intend to perform. And regulatory reporting is a high pressure environment. And so, yeah, especially in the late stage setting, like phase 3 trials, there's patients and scientists and executives are all intensely interested in the results of your analysis. And so it's not a super pleasant environment to be doing last minute coding around data issues that have cropped up. And even with many people working hard to ensure data quality, it's not uncommon for issues to slip through the cracks. And so, yeah, maybe you've got some query that has been accidentally closed early when it shouldn't be, or maybe you've received a new transfer of data where edit checks haven't been performed or something like that. But yeah, they can slip through the cracks. It's not uncommon. And so my big learning was that before performing an analysis, it's helpful to check for important data issues at the analyst level instead of just like assuming that everything's been taken care of. And so, yeah, has this ever happened to you? Like you're working on a clinical trial and maybe this one scenario, you've performed an analysis, but there's weird discrepancies between different tables that you've produced. Like maybe you're summarizing adverse events by preferred term in one table and by grade in another table, and the total number of adverse events doesn't match between the tables for some reason. Or maybe you're summarizing deaths due to adverse events in one table, and the number isn't matching the number of grade 5 AEs you have in another table. Or maybe there's this other scenario where you've just received some fresh new SDTM data sets and you want to make sure common data issues have been addressed. That in the past, from your past experience, if you're missing a death date or if you've got a partial death date, then that's going to mess up your time to event analysis. Or, you've seen in the past, maybe like someone will have, a form will be filled out, but for some reason it's marked not done, even though it's got legitimate data in there. You want to make sure we don't have any of those issues, do we? And so, yeah, just when I first started working at Genentech, I found myself with every project I was working on kind of coding these types of checks over and over again. And it eventually started to feel like I was in the movie Groundhog Day, where I was just doing the same thing over and over again. And it got super annoying and it just got old. And so eventually some ideas cropped up. One is, can we centralize some of these checks? And another was that, these data checks are pretty simple. You're just inputting SDTM data sets and, having some logic in there to perform your data check. And then you're outputting some flagged results if they exist. And so data checks are pretty simple. Can we write them as R functions in order to get non-R coders some gentle introductory experience? Yeah, because ever since I started at Roche, or Genentech about 9 years ago, it's always been kind of like a departmental goal to get into R a little bit more. And so the big idea here was that maybe we can learn R a bit, our department can learn R a bit and make something helpful at the same time. And so, yeah, this simplicity of these checks enabled crowdsourcing in our department. Like I said, they're not super hard to write. So people were able to kind of break off a small amount of their time to contribute some functions here and there. And so we had a lot of participation, which was great. Eventually, this guy said, hey, why don't you stop just sourcing all these functions and make a proper package out of it? And so we did that. And this guy said, hey, this would actually be really nice as a Shiny app too. And so we did that. And so that brings us to today. We have this SDTMchecks package, which it's a collection of simple functions to perform data quality checks for SDTM data sets that are analysis impacting, generalizable across studies, and actionable. And so for analysis impacting, it's like, we don't care about obscure variables or obscure domains, SDTM domains that we don't use in our analysis. Let's just not check those because we don't care about them. Generalizable, yeah, there's always going to be study-specific stuff that you need to check on a per study basis. It's going to be specific to that study. This is just about data quality checks that are more widely applicable. And of course, an actionable is just like, if we can't fix it, then let's not worry about it. So the current status of the package, there's 100+ data quality checks. Each function will return true or false depending on whether the check passes. If it fails, it'll return some flag records with a message. You can see some results here in the lower right. And then there's some functionality to run checks, run all the checks in the package and store the results into a list. And there's different check categories. We have like general checks, cross therapeutic areas, doing checks on AEs or con meds and that kind of stuff. There's some oncology specific stuff, COVID specific stuff. And we have ophthalmology and patient reported outcome checks as well. And so, but wait, I have questions. Isn't this what data management does? Like, yeah, SDTM checks is intended to be a double check at the analyst level to make sure important issues have been addressed or haven't slipped through the cracks. Isn't this what Pinnacle 21 does? Yeah, so there's some overlap there, but I'm under the impression Pinnacle 21 is more about data model conformance issues, and SDTM checks is about analysis impacting issues. And I guess the idea is like, if it's important enough, a duplication of checking is a good thing. Isn't this just unit testing? Yeah, this is kind of like unit testing for SDTM data sets. And do people find this useful? So let's quickly, I know we're running out of time, let's quickly just look at usage at Roche. Here's some usage stats for our Shiny app. And you can see right now we have about 90 unique users per month if you look at this year. And it's been growing since we started collecting the stats. Here's another look at it. You can just see from this plot, I just like this cool calendar plot, link in the right. Yeah, you can see it's been used every workday this year, except for one random Friday in July. And so this is it. This is my last slide. It's now open source. You can check it out. It's part of the Pharmaverse. It's in public GitHub. If you're interested in collaborating or testing it out, please reach out. I'd love to know what works and what doesn't on non-Roche data. There's some vignettes on getting started and writing new checks. And ultimately, I'm just hoping that cross-pharma collaboration can help drive further innovation for this project. Thanks.